5. Ball batted up into the air and caught.
Did that quarterback just catch his own pass? He actually did, and it's one of those funny little accidents that you can think of happening once or twice where a quarterback did it, and maybe even less than that where they ran it for a small gain. But this has been happening in football for as long as the forward pass has been popular, and when it happens in a game, I mean, holy shit, is it not just the coolest thing?
The pass is batted back into his hands.
Up by Kozar, and it's deflected back to him, and Kozar runs to trouble.
Now, as rare as this play is, its first instance actually comes all the way back in the 50s. Like I said, the forward pass was just becoming popular and the biggest stars would start to make this play, like Johnny Unitas, and in a 1956 game against the Lions, he completed a pass to himself after it was deflected. 2 years later, Lamar McCann of Cardinal fame would also catch a deflected pass, and 2 years after that, Y.A. Tittle would catch his own deflection, this time for a 4-yard gain. But none of those would even begin to touch the Milt Plum pass of 1959, a game against the Cardinals where he would catch a deflected pass, and instead of just gaining a small handful of yards, he would get a whole bucket full of 20 freaking yards. Now, we have to rush through these because I really could not find any single game film of these games. And I know listening to the sweet serenade of my voice is pleasing to only people that share a last name with me, and I don't want to rock y'all to sleep. We wouldn't get another one until 1966 when John Hadle managed to get 4 yards on the play, and it would be 2 more years until we'd see a Sam Wyche complete a 5-yard pass to himself. And then, 11 whopping years after that, we would see a Tommy Kramer deflection get grabbed to run forward for another 3 yards. But finally, 25 years after the first recorded instance of this, I was able to find some footage. The player is Richard Todd. The game is Jets vs. Dolphins 1981, Week 5. In a Dolphins goal line stand, Todd rolls out to his right. He looks for a receiver, attempts to pass it, but big ol' 59 gets his paw up and bats it back where Todd takes it and begins to attempt to score, which he wouldn't get particularly close, but would still gain a yard. The next instance would be a Seattle versus Miami AFC Championship match in 1984 as Dave Craig tries to get the ball off, but it's deflected. And luckily, he's able to scoop it up, and would you believe it, there's a little lane to his right. And it takes off for a couple yard gain, it appears, although it's only marked for a single yard. Now, a couple years later, Kozar of Browns fame was taking on an absolutely stacked Bears defense, and they were having their way with him. And almost did it again with a pass batted at the line of scrimmage. But in the one thing that went somewhat well for the Browns this game, Kozar was standing beneath the ball, picks it up, and gains a yard or 2. Also, for the first time ever, Bobby Hebert would complete one of these passes, but of course, I couldn't find the video, but fret not, because just 2 years after this game, the Saints would be taking on the Broncos, and yes, this is going exactly where you think it is. While Bobby Hebert is fighting against John Elway, things aren't going great for them, but a pass gets deflected, but put a dog on the bike and call it a cowboy because somehow Hebert now has the ball in his hands and is fighting his way for a couple extra yards on a play that should have never happened, but hey, we are happy it did. Now things would begin to pick up a bit as we inch towards the more passer-friendly era of today, as in 1990 we see Vinny Testaverde from everywhere, but this game he's playing for the Bucs, complete a pass to himself for a single yard. Now, not everything was for a gain, and we have some notable self-catches for a loss I'll talk about, like when this young quarterback named Brett Favre is looking to complete his first ever NFL pass. So he rolls out, has an open man, but it gets tipped, and in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, he completes his very first pass to himself for a loss. The next reappearing character we're going to see on this list shows up in a Belichick-led Browns team as they're taking on the Houston Oilers, and for the second time this season, Kozar, making another heads-up play, and probably thanks to his previous version of this, sees the ball get batted up, runs beneath it, and gets the same amount of yards as his previous attempts, so perhaps when he was doing it this time, he was trying to beat his previous record. But while all of those have been neat, Nothing, and I mean nothing, comes close to this one. 1993 49ers vs. Falcons. Steve Young steps back. He looks for a man in the end zone. He scrambles to his left, makes a man miss, scrambles back to his right, throws it. We have no idea where he's throwing it to, and maybe it was entirely planned out, but it's directly into the hands of a Falcons defender where he bats it back to Steve Young, who dives beneath it and attempts to score, coming up just inches short of the most electric play I've ever got to cover in a history video. Seriously, how is this not being showed every single time somebody talks about Steve Young? But notice, speaking of almost scoring, nobody has scored on a self-pass so far. It's not going to be that way forever, I promise. Also of noteworthy appearance, Jim Harbaugh caught one of his own passes for a 1-yard gain that season as well, but couldn't find any footage of it. Now let's go to 1995. The Browns are taking on the Bills. A Testaverde of everywhere fame is now playing for the Browns, but is this going to stop him from giving Belichick the same nightmares as his previous quarterback? Of course not, but this time he is able to pick up a good chunk of yardage, about 7 or so. We also had a Bubby Brister reception from this year I can't find film of, but 1997, Vikings fans, go ahead and make some noise because Brad Johnson takes the snap, looks to his left, throws it, catches it, he's confused, he scrambles to the right, and then dives into the end zone for, you guessed it, one of the rarest things that has ever happened in a football game, the self-pass touchdown. What an amazing heads-up play. There was also a much less memorable Jake Plummer self-catch that year as well, but the year after that, Kent Graham would have something to say about all these short self-passes as he would catch a deflection and take it for 16 yards, the longest I was able to find any footage of to this day. Next, we get one of the rarest feats on this list, and here's how it starts. It's a November game. The year is 2000. Eagles are at home against the Cardinals, and young star Donovan McNabb is looking to keep a drive alive, but the pass gets batted back to McNabb, which at this point, what else do you think is going to happen during this video, where he heroically runs forward and picks up 2 yards after catching it. And if you're confused as to what's so rare about that, let me take you to a December game. The year is 2000. You're thinking to yourself, no way. But yes way. McNabb lines up. It's 3rd and 5. He's looking to keep a drive alive. Does this sound familiar? He sees a man over the middle. Oh no. Oh yes, it's batted, it's incomplete, or is it? McNabb runs up again and carries it forward for the 2-yard gain twice in 1 year. Are you kidding me? My heart can only take so much excitement, so let's go to 2001. Trent Green steps back needing 2 yards, passes to his left, it gets knocked up like a girl trying to make a fast check, but Green says no, catches it and goes with plan B, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, to attempt to get the ball to the first down, to no avail. Now, 2002, we would get Bulger with a pass batted while he slides under it for a 3-yard gain, as well as our first edition of the over-the-shoulder self-pass. 2003, Joey Harrington catch for a whopping 8 yards without us having footage of it, but I was able to find this quarterback on a hot streak named Steve McNair dismantling the Panthers, and he would decide to call his own number in quite the weird way by throwing a pass to himself and then picking up 4 yards, which was key in keeping a drive alive to get a field goal. He just could not be stopped at this game. Bulger had another one in 2005 for a 1-yard gain as he makes his second appearance on this list, and 2006 gave us something that could have been a beauty. A prime Michael Vick gets his pass deflected at the 9-yard line as he tries to turn the corner. Could this be our second pass for a touchdown? Maybe. If Troy Polamalu hadn't been on the other side of the line of scrimmage, that might have been the case. But he was instead hauled down for a 1-yard gain. But trust me, there's going to be more scores. Now, 2007, we're going to get one of my favorite themes for this video. Let's see if you can pick it up, but it's a Saints versus Colts game. Drew Brees has a pass deflected, and he attempts to scramble for the first down, but doesn't get it. So let's just keep our eye out on Drew going forward, shall we? The same year, we'd get an overtime catch from John Kitna as he would make up for a arguably pretty awful game to get them into field goal range, which is crucial for them to win the game. We'd also get this game against the Eagles where the Saints quarterback, oh no. Oh yes. Drew Brees would get it batted down, but alas, he's more prepared than last time and finds the gap to pick up 8 yards, ultimately helping to get into field goal range and score at the end of the half. Just a busy year for quarterback / wide receiver Drew Brees. But now in the legendary 2009 Super Bowl run by the Cardinals, it had all the spectacular plays, one of which being against the Eagles again, Kurt Warner getting the ball batted right back into his hands where he's able to scramble for a few yards, helping chug along this drive. Now in the 2009 season, McNabb would feel some kind of way about all these other teams getting yards after pass deflections, so he takes one into his own hands, literally, in a game where it already seemed like if the Eagles sneezed, it'd be for a 4-yard gain. And in what should have been a pick six, it turns into a quarterback reception for a gain of a single yard. Just unreal that he did that 3 times in his career. But you see, someone wouldn't be a fan of being outdone. So in a game where the 49ers were playing the Saints, oh no. Oh yes, he steps back, Drew Brees fires it, it's batted, he gets it at the 1-yard line, he's confused, the Niners are confused, he runs it forward for a gain of 7 yards and then takes a healthy slide. Drew, you absolute madman, you just cannot be outdone, can you? 2012, Stafford would save himself from getting intercepted by picking up his bat to gain a small chunk of yards. And then in 2014, let's cut to the Saints. Oh no, are taking on the Buccaneers. Oh yes, and Drew Brees drops back, looks over the middle, throws the ball into the big old mitts of a defensive lineman where it pops up, but he runs forward, scoops it up to gain a yard off of. Just speechless. 4 of those plays in a 7-year span. 2 years later, though, would be the most prolific year for this type of play. It opened up on the literal week 1 of the 2016 season. The first play from scrimmage of the second quarter, Garoppolo bounces one off over the middle, grabs it, and dips his head to pick up a 1-yard gain. Then, in the middle of the Vikings' collapse this year, Sam Bradford gets his pass tipped, but decides to take matters into his own hands and runs for 5 yards to keep his offense ahead of the chain. It would also be the same year that a young, promising Carson Wentz would get a pass batted back to him against the Bengals, where he would find his way forward in an incredible 7 yards, if you could believe that. We'd end this season with a gorgeous awareness play by Alex Smith, where he would be able to pick up 3 yards against the Raiders to make that 4 completions to quarterbacks by quarterbacks in one season. Then 2018, we get another miracle. The game is where the Saints are taking on, oh no. Yeah, I'm actually just kidding this time. It's the Titans taking on the Chiefs in the wild card round. The Titans, who are down by 1 point per year we are past 2000. They need nothing less than a touchdown here, so Mariota drops back. There's nothing to his right. He scrambles left. He almost gets past the line of scrimmage, but with a single cleat behind it, he passes it. It's tipped. Mariota gets pushed, but he's pushed into the ball. Now it's him in the pylon. He dives. He gets it. The Titans spur a humongous comeback and win a game off this momentum. It's the whole reason I made this video, and it's an amazing play. Oh my god, my heart rate, the momentum. Yes, 21 years after the first quarterback self-pass touchdown, and it happens again. The only 2 times in NFL history it's ever happened, making this one of the rarest feats. But was it the last quarterback reception? Of course not. We have more history to repeat. 2018, Carson Wentz gets a reappearance as he managed to pick up a first down, this time off of a batted pass. And also in 2019, we get a Joe Burrow play from his incredible run that season. And I know this is mostly an NFL video, but as a Bengals fan, you are now being forced to watch it. 2023, we get another randomly big uptick. First, we get to see the second Brett Favre ever. Opening up against the Ravens, CJ Stroud is about to take his first pass, and it gets deflected, forcing him to recover his own pass, and then get absolutely obliterated. But man, if he turns out to be as good of a QB as Brett Favre is, the Texans are going to be fired up. Week 6 of this season, the Chargers vs. Cowboys game, Herbert needs 5 yards, but is able to get about 7 after the ball gets batted back to him. As we come to find out, he really is going to have to do everything himself on this offense. And speaking of having to do everything yourself, let's get to the playoffs. The Ravens are taking on the Chiefs, and we get another instance of a batted ball by Lamar Jackson, but he runs forward and is able to catch it over his shoulder in stride for 13 yards. And that has you up to date on these incredibly rare plays. I hope you enjoyed this history lesson. If you did, consider subscribing, and peace.
Pass knocked down and came back to Breeze.